My mom was abandoned as a baby. After 68 years, she finally meets her family, but now her entitled siblings are guilting her to become a caretaker to their dying mother. So, I-35F grew up in the United States, born and raised in Austin, Texas. My father 70M is Canadian, and my mother 68F is Greek. Every summer, we vacationed in Greece with my maternal grandparents. When I was 25, my parents retired and moved permanently to Greece after my mother inherited a house and a significant amount of money from her mother when she passed away. And that is when things took a strange turn. During the last few months of my grandmother's life, my mom went to Greece to care for her, as she was no longer able to care for herself. In her final days, my grandmother revealed a shocking secret. My mom was adopted. She wasn't the biological child of the parents who raised her. Instead, she was the daughter of my grandmother's cousin. Apparently, in Greece decades ago, it was common for struggling families with many children to give a baby to a relative who couldn't have kids. My mom was devastated. She grieved over the fact that she never knew her real family and that no one ever told her. After my grandmother passed, she decided to move to Greece to reconnect with the biological family that she never met. She traveled to the region where her biological mother lived and met her for the first time, along with 2 older brothers and a younger sister. Her eldest brother was especially emotional because he vaguely remembered the day they gave my mother away as a baby. But from the start, my mom was hurt that none of them had ever tried to find her. Their excuse was that she had moved to the United States and it was difficult to track her down, while her biological mother said that she had made a pact with her cousin, my adoptive grandmother, never to reveal the truth. The entire village had been told that my mom died as a baby, so no one ever questioned it. And for the past 10 years, my parents have lived in Greece, and my mom has built a close relationship with her siblings. However, her relationship with her biological mother has remained distant and formal. She never got over the fact that this woman kept all of her other children but gave her away. Likely because she was a girl, and at the time, boys were valued more because they worked in the fields and contributed to the family's income, whereas girls were seen as a burden. Then, 2 years ago, I was able to move to Greece as well, since the parents who raised my mom left her a sizable inheritance, and it allowed us to live comfortably. And honestly, I prefer the lifestyle here. We live in a beautiful place near the capital, and life is peaceful. But now, here's the issue. My mom's biological mother is now 96 years old and in very poor health. Her biological father passed away decades ago due to political circumstances, and her 2 older brothers, her sister lives abroad, have been taking care of their mother, but they are exhausted. Their wives are complaining, tensions are rising, and at a recent family gathering they told my mom she should also help take care of their mother because it's unfair that they are doing it alone. My father was furious when he heard this and told my mom to cut them off entirely. My mom, though, refuses to take care of this woman. She doesn't love her, doesn't feel any emotional connection to her, and can't forgive her for abandoning her. My mom is not close to this woman, and of course, she has no legal claim to any inheritance from this family. However, she has truly enjoyed her relationship with her siblings and their children, and does not want to lose that. So she's feeling pressured, though she's still deeply upset by their demands. And when I found out, I was livid. How dare these people ask this of my mother knowing full well that she was abandoned and that no one even attempted to find her? I feel like they're manipulating her, and she's unable to see how unfair this is. As for me, I'm getting married in a month to my fiancé, who is Greek and fully supportive of me, and I am seriously considering uninviting all of them from the wedding. I want to send a clear message that we don't want contact with them anymore. However, my mother is hesitant. She doesn't want to escalate things, even though she's hurting. I feel like she's not as attached to these people as she thinks she is. She's mourning the idea of the family she never had, rather than truly loving these people. And I hate seeing her be taken advantage of. I always idolized Greece and the strong bonds of family, but now I see that's not always the case, and I'm so disappointed by all of this. So what would you do in this situation? Would you cut them off? Would you disinvite them from the wedding? How can I help my mother navigate this? Edit. I forgot to mention something I think is important. My mom suggested they find a senior care facility to put her biological mother in. She even offered to pay a quarter of the price. My biological uncles were offended because they said it was disrespectful to their mother to put her in a nursing home, another Greek thing. And although they are generally financially comfortable, a quarter for a good structure can mean 400 to 500 pounds per month, which by Greek standards is enough. I think their idea of help is taking her biological mother for a few months. Then in the comments section, one user said, "Okay, OP, your mom doesn't owe her anything, and her siblings are being unfair. Cutting them off completely might be extreme if she still values the relationship, but she should still set firm boundaries. For the wedding, if their presence would stress you or your mom out, uninvite them. If you'd rather keep things neutral, that's fine too. Do what feels right for both of you. Then user 2 commented and said, "It's likely the sons are tired of taking care of mom, and I'm betting their wives are complaining the most. The wives are probably going, 'What is this new daughter doing? She should help.' And heaven only knows how much help they think your mom should do. It is a slippery slope with no good outcome. Creating distance and firm boundaries between your mom and new siblings is best." Yeah, that's my thought exactly. I am having second thoughts, and surely some comments gave me some perspective, but that is my main thought. Then user 3 replied and said, "Okay, where is this woman's grandkids? That woman had 3 kids that she kept. They all have spouses and kids. Why are they not stepping up? Why is it your mother that she gave away like a bag of bread, the one who has to now step forward and take care of this woman?" So, that's another Greek thing, I suppose. My biological uncles won't ask their children for help. Their whole life is dedicated to helping them, so it's not common for grandkids to take elders in and care for them. I avoid all of them, so I'm not sure what their plans are. Their discussion happened only a few days ago and my mom hasn't responded yet, but me and my dad are furious, and I don't like the idea of helping her in any way. Then user 4 commented and said, "Well, it's your wedding, it's your choice, but it does sound like your mom does want a relationship with her biological siblings. And if you do uninvite them, plus mom saying she won't help financially/physically to look after her biological mom, sadly, I'm sure they will cut her off, which is sad. I understand your mom being hurt by what her biological mom did, but was it a financial reason as to not to keep her? As it sounds like they had 2 boys already? But equally, she went on to have and keep another little girl after your mom, so that must be upsetting. I would also be very angry if they led everyone to believe that I had died at birth. I know different religions and cultures, etc. do things differently, and I can totally understand if she couldn't cope. If that's the case, then of course, give your mom a better life. And it sounds like she definitely had, but then to keep another child and lead everyone to believe I'd died out of embarrassment for getting rid of me? I would be upset. Very upset. So, at first I thought that it was for financial reasons, but it turns out that this isn't the case. As I was informed by other Greeks, it was a common thing to do when some family members couldn't conceive. My grandma and grandpa couldn't have children. They were visiting that village from the US, and when my biological grandma gave birth to my mom, they asked for her. My biological grandma was working hard in the fields, and she thought it was a good thing to help her cousin. That's why she had another baby after my mother. They were good financially and they still have enough money, etc. It sounds completely crazy to me, but apparently families did that, which is something that bothers me for my grandma as well. She went to a family and requested a child and just took her away? I don't know, it seems insane to me. Then user 5 commented and said, "So it sounds like in Greek culture, girls are a burden in the early years when they can't tend in the fields, but a boon in the later years when they provide elder care. This was a calculation her biological mom made, and these are the results." So, honestly, every day I am learning something new about Greek culture. As a child who only came here for vacation, I thought everything in Greece was wonderful. People were great, funny, families were huge, and spent time together. But as time goes by, I understand that there are many pathologies and things that are far from ideal. And then finally, OP elaborates more on Greece villages and said, "So, in Greece villages, women work really hard. They didn't have water or electricity, etc. My biological grandma had a maid in her house, but she would still help my grandpa and her brothers just like any other woman in the village when they were harvesting smoke from their lands, etc. She would walk to the river to wash clothes. She cooked for 7 people, children, husband, in-laws, etc. But they were a rich family. They owned a lot of land. They afforded to have people working for them. They managed to send their children to universities. It was very common for Greece in the 50s and 60s, especially in villages." Update 3 days later. Hey y'all, first of all, thank you all so much for the responses to my previous post. I decided to share it with my mom and let her read your comments. She was really moved by the similar stories some of you shared. This then led to a deep conversation between us. And over the past few years, my mom has learned a lot about her adoption. Unfortunately, my biological grandma was not a good person. The wife of one of my biological uncles, let's call her Maria, sat my mom down a few years ago and told her everything. Turns out, my biological grandma was a very strict and spiteful woman who treated the people who worked for her horribly. She never wanted daughters and even tried to give away her other daughter, but that adoption fell through, so she kept her. My biological aunt went through a really tough time growing up, and that's why she moved abroad. Her brothers never supported her the way they should have, and they even cheated her out of part of her inheritance. Maria is now thinking about leaving her husband since the kids are grown, and she doesn't want to stay married to a man that she knows isn't a good person. As for my mom, she's never felt a bond with her biological mother, but after hearing everything from Maria, she decided she doesn't want contact at all. She knows exactly what kind of people her biological brothers are and never wanted a super close relationship with them. They're not in daily contact anyway, but she does feel attached to her nieces and nephews and their wives. That's the main reason she hasn't cut ties completely. So with all that being said, my mom has decided she will help financially but will not take biological grandma into her home. She's doing it mainly to support her biological sister, who is under pressure from their brothers to care for their mother. My mom has tried to get closer to her biological sister over the years, but her sister has kept her distance. She explained that she has some deep trauma from growing up with their mother and wants to maintain some emotional space, but she's still happy that they met. Then, this past Christmas, my biological aunt came to Greece and stayed at our house. I wasn't there because I was visiting friends in Netherlands, but my mom and sister spent time together, and it brought them closer. My aunt told my mom to cut off her brothers completely and invited her to move to her country. She has made it clear she only wants a formal relationship with the rest of the family, except for my mom, whom she loves dearly. And side note for the skeptics, my aunt is financially independent and comfortable. She's never asked my mom or anyone else for anything. But continuing, I had no idea about most of this because my mom didn't want me to see my uncles in a bad light. She still thinks that she'll keep some minimal relationship with them, but she's especially close with a few of her nieces and nephews and doesn't want to lose that. Then, one of my cousins, Maria's son, even confided in my mom that he wants to cut ties with his father. When my biological uncle asked my mom for help, this cousin, who's only 25, pulled her aside and told her to stay away and not give them anything because they don't deserve it. And that really got to me. It showed me that not everyone in this family is selfish or manipulative. And I actually have a good relationship with this cousin. He gets along great with my fiance since they work in the same field. And after learning all of this, I met up with him last night and we talked. He has moved out on his own but still keeps in contact with his dad, mainly because he wants to wait until Maria leaves before cutting ties completely. He told me that his father and uncle inherited a lot of wealth and never really had to work. They started some businesses, but then they struggled, so they took large sums of money from biological grandma and other relatives. Now they've recovered and lived comfortably, but they never paid back what they owe. My cousin is ashamed of his family's actions and doesn't want to be judged for them. And he also believes they are trying to financially exploit my mom. And because he cares about her and really respects my parents, he warned them not to get involved. After everything, my parents and I made a decision then. My mom will give one lump sum of money for her biological mother's care. Whether they put her in a nursing home or hire a caregiver is their problem. She will also have a final talk with her brothers to make it clear that she is not taking care of their mom because that woman was never a mother to her. Then, when Maria manages to get divorced, which my parents want to support her through, we expect the relationship with the brothers to fall apart. My mom is still sad that she never found the ideal family she imagined, but she feels lucky to have her sister, Maria, and her nephew, whom she truly loves. Then, as for the wedding, we decided to invite them to avoid unnecessary drama. And that's the update for now. I truly appreciate all the comments and support. I feel sorry for those who have gone through similar painful experiences, and I hope no one has to go through this ever again. P.S. Someone in the comments, probably a Greek, suggested that my biological grandpa might have died for political reasons because he was fighting against the Nazis. Unfortunately, it was the exact opposite. My biological grandparents were right-wing extremists at a time when the left and right conflict in Greece had led to suffering and deaths. A lot of their wealth came from unethical means. And lastly, I feel terrible for ever doubting my grandparents, the ones who actually raised my mom. They were amazing, kind, and compassionate people who helped so many others in the US. Everything they had was earned through hard work, and I'm so grateful they adopted my mom, and I wish they had also taken in my aunt. But thank you again, everyone. If I have another update, I may be back. Then, in the comments section, one user commented and said, "OP, she's still being taken advantage of. They will ask for more money. It's always the same story. The brothers get money, and the one taking care of the elders is someone who has nothing to do with those swindlers." I understand, but no, really, my mom knows what she is doing. She will give an amount of money if they agree to never ask her such a thing. The amount will be relatively small, around £3,000, and she is ready to cut them off entirely if they ever mention anything again. It's not the ideal solution for me either, but I am glad my mother met Maria, and I want her to be safe. The reason I came here on Reddit in the first place was the fact that I didn't want my mom to get hurt. Now that I know she understands what type of people her biological brothers are, I am okay with whatever decision she makes. Then user 2 commented and said, "OP, do you trust the uncles to actually use the money for grandma's care? I feel like they might just pocket it and claim your mom didn't help." No, I do not trust them, but neither me nor my mom really care if they will actually help their biological grandma. My mom has already spoken with Maria and her sister, and they are aware of her next move. She wants to give the money to help those poor wives taking care of their mother-in-law who made their life a living hell. And I am so happy my mother knows everything about her biological brothers. That was my concern in the first place. Then user 3 commented and said, "Okay, but why are you still inviting them to your wedding? How will that avoid drama?" So, my wedding is in less than a month. They are already invited. If I take back the invitation, they will for sure become offended, at the very least. I genuinely want their wives, especially after learning the truth about their lives and their opinions in the situation, and my cousins to be there. Some of the cousins are relatively young and still attached to their fathers, so there is a good chance they will be offended for uninviting their fathers, so we decided to keep them invited to avoid all of these things. My mom plans to talk to them about money, etc. after the wedding. We have a lot to organize till then anyway, but if they pressure more for an answer earlier, there is a good chance they will not attend anyways. And then finally, user 4 commented and said, "Why would she give them anything if they have all that money? It makes no sense to me." Well, my mom is in a significantly better position compared to her biological brothers. She wants to give some money in order for them to sort out what they are going to do. A house nurse or a nursing home. The main reason she decided to do that is to help Maria. She is the one doing most of the caring, and she needs some time to organize things about her divorce, but she is always busy. Another reason is that a part of her still feels bad about her brothers. She does realize they are not exactly good people, and she doesn't care losing them if they won't respect her boundaries, but she did tell me that they didn't have any chances to become better people. So she kind of feels like she can give them some money in order to help them have some options with their mother. Maybe enough for a down payment for a nursing home. She does recognize that she's not obligated to do so, but that's what she wants to do. I'm not a huge fan of the idea, but I do support her. New update. 1 month later. Hey everyone, first of all, thank you so much for all of the comments and messages. I've been so busy with wedding preparations that I couldn't respond to everyone, but I really appreciate the support, and I figured it was time for an update on how everything unfolded. Now, during the wedding planning, things were relatively quiet. I grew even closer to my cousins, my Aunt Maria, and my biological aunt who came back to Greece for 10 days, and I learned some truly heartbreaking things about what the women in this family have endured. After everything, my parents decided to fully support the women however they could do and to cut off my mom's biological brothers entirely. So, the wedding happened last Saturday, and it was absolutely perfect. No drama, just happiness. And I could make a whole post about it, but it feels unrelated. But then, in the past 10 days, everything exploded. 2 days after the wedding, Maria told my biological uncle that she was divorcing him. Thankfully, we had postponed our honeymoon until the summer, so I was here to support her. She moved into my mom's house and things escalated fast. My biological uncle lost it. He showed up at my parents' house yelling and cursing. My dad was completely shocked but immediately kicked him out. And since then, both of my mom's biological brothers have been pushing her not to get involved and to stop putting ideas into Maria's head. But thankfully, Maria's kids are fully on her side. They confronted their father, told him off, and are now helping their mother find a place to stay and are supporting her financially. And that set off a whole new domino effect. My biological aunt, the one who lives abroad, also confronted her brothers. Up until now, she had kept things relatively civil, but after seeing what happened to Maria, she decided she was done. What we didn't know until recently was that her brothers had been manipulating her too. They told her that if she left Greece and didn't stay to take care of their mother, she would lose any claim to her inheritance. And now that the truth is out, she's taking them to court to get what is rightfully hers. On top of that, her husband, who is honestly an amazing man, had also lent money to my biological uncles years ago. But, unlike the rest of us, he was smart enough to structure it as a business loan, and now he's suing them to get it back. And then, the final straw for all of us was finding out about the biological brothers' scheme. Maria told us everything. They had been bitter for years about how financially stable my mom is, thanks to her adoptive parents and the fact that my dad is also well off, and they resented that she had a good life while they were constantly struggling due to their own bad decisions. So, their plan? To manipulate her into giving them money using their mother as an excuse. When my mom hesitated about whether she even wanted to contribute to her biological mother's care, they lost it, and they started talking behind her back, saying things like, "She'll see what happens to her. She acts like she's rich, but she won't even take care of her mother." And after that, my mom was completely done. Now, biological grandma is still living in one of my biological uncle's homes, but his wife has now refused to take care of her. She told them either put her in a nursing home or the other brother, who now lives alone, can take her in. And I have no idea how that will play out, but honestly, I don't really care. Then, this Saturday, they've scheduled a final meeting with all of the siblings and their spouses to settle things once and for all. Maybe I should have waited until after that to post an update, but I was scrolling through Reddit today and figured some of you would want to know what's been happening. As for me, I'm relieved about how things turned out. I'm so glad my mom never had to give them a cent. And honestly, I owe that to Maria reaching her breaking point. When she overheard them talking about how much money we wasted on the wedding and how they could find a way to get their share, she told my mom everything. That was the moment my mom fully let go of any guilt. I'm also happy that we're cutting ties because I never felt comfortable around them. I never felt any warmth or real connection. That being said, I have caught my mom crying or sitting in silence, clearly in deep thought. She hasn't spoken much about how much this has hurt her, but I know she's grieving the idea of the family that she hoped to have. She spent years trying to get to know them and build some sort of bond, only to realize that it was never real. Still, at least she now knows the truth and won't have toxic, manipulative people in her life. What I am grateful for is the genuine family connections that have come out of this mess. My dad's family is small, and since we've lived outside of Canada, I never had much of a connection there. My mom only had her adoptive parents in the US, so I never really experienced what it was like to be a part of a big family. But now, for the first time, I feel like I have people I can truly trust and love without second-guessing their intentions. And I am nervous about the meeting on Saturday, mostly because of my cousin. He's been through so much with his father, and I feel like he's going to unleash all of his anger in that room. I love him so much, though, and I know he feels like he's finally found his real family in us. He has also recently came out to his mother, Maria, but hasn't told his father yet. Maria had no idea. When he told her, she broke down crying, hugged him, and apologized for not creating a safe enough space for him to open up sooner. He had to live a hidden life because of his father's toxic beliefs, and it breaks my heart. Maria also carries a lot of guilt. She never worked independently, she helped in her husband's business, but he always controlled the finances. She never felt strong enough to leave, even though she endured so much mistreatment, likely infidelity, and was constantly belittled by both her husband and biological grandma. She thought staying was the best way to protect her kids from poverty, which in Greece can be brutal, especially for single mothers. But now she realizes that by staying, she also made her son feel like he had to hide who he was. There's so much more I could say, but I recently found out that my story has been shared in different videos online. My husband came across it, and for that reason, I don't want to expose any more personal details about my family unless they choose to share the stories themselves. And one last thing, I want to say thank you to everyone who commented. My mom keeps coming back to the post and reading stories from other adoptees, and she cries every time. But in a way, it's helping her heal. She sends you all of her love. Maybe I will update again after the meeting. And then one final question for all of you. After everything I've learned, I now know that my biological grandma is, and always has been, a truly awful person. I wouldn't be surprised if she had some kind of undiagnosed psychiatric condition, but at this point, it doesn't really matter. Even after all of the horrible things that she has done, even knowing she said things about my mom like, "Look at her and that dumb face. Good thing I didn't keep her, and at least she didn't eat our food for free," I sometimes still feel sorry for her. She's now completely alone. Her grandkids don't visit her because she was cruel, even violent to their mothers. Her sons don't care, and the only person stuck with her is her daughter-in-law, who's only tolerating her because there's no other choice. I know she deserves it. I know karma caught up with her, and yet sometimes I think about her and I cry. So, what would you do? Would you feel bad in my situation? I just want to ignore it, but I feel so sad at times. Then, in the comments section, one user said, "OP, your mom needs some therapy. It will help for her to talk to someone not involved in the family." Then user 2 commented and said, "OP, first off, congratulations on the wedding. I'm glad your mom is finally cutting them out. And no, I would not feel bad for the biological grandmother. She's reaping what she sowed. Her actions and behaviors are why she's alone. She has no one to blame but herself. There's nothing you can do about it, and no point wasting time feeling bad for someone who spent their life happy, making everyone else miserable, and continues to do so. Don't waste your energy on someone who doesn't care." And then finally, user 3 commented and said, "Feelings about toxic family members being ill, dying alone, etc. are frequently complex. You can both hate them and love them, knowing they earned their terrible situation and still feel terrible for them. The want to never hear from them again and wish they would love and respect you. Not to mention the fact that most decent people have feelings of compassion for any suffering human. It's completely normal to have such contradictory feelings about your biological grandmother. OP, you may want to consider a few sessions with a therapist so that you can process all of this crap. It is a lot, and it could help you let some of your reactions out and kind of integrate this into the story of your life and help you deal with the contradictory feelings. Okay, so to give my own personal narrator opinion on the matter, guys, we just witnessed an entire season, maybe 2 seasons worth of a Grease family drama. What is the Grease equivalent of a telenovela? I don't know, but that was this. Money, lies, betrayal, infidelity, maybe some murder, and a few Nazi things along the way. I would give this an 8.5 on IMDb, and I would like to see a 3rd season, but I feel like at that point you would just be milking it dry. I am so glad, though, that the mom did not give a cent to the family, and I'm glad that the truth finally came out, and it kind of started with OP's mom coming in there and just shaking up the status quo, and the woman realizing, like, hey, this sucks, I want to go. So they went to Greece, met all the family members, cherry-picked the ones that didn't suck, and then left with a family and a real connection. So I think there's something good in that. And while OP's mom didn't get the family she wanted, she at least got more than what she had a couple of years ago. And then cut out all the toxic tumors and all that. So that's a pretty good position, and hopefully they go to therapy. But anyway, y'all, we are at the end of the video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for commenting. Have a really good day, and bye-bye!